Here's an interesting scenario. What if you need to have a pattern or text wrapped neatly around a model? The traditional solution is to break out Photoshop, but in this video, I'll show you how to get it all done within ZBrush. So we've got a ring model here, and let's say we want to put some text around the inside of it. And this text should wrap all the way around. Sounds pretty complicated to get text nice and neat so it's wrapping all the way around. You might try projecting it, but then you'd have to project one part and then move it around and project another part and then move it around and project another part. It could get really complicated really fast. So let me show you a technique that might be quite a bit simpler. First thing you want to do is make sure that your model has UVs laid out. I have the model broken up into polygroups. If I hit Shift F, you can see there's a polygroup for the inside, one for the top edge, and one for the outside, one for the bottom edge as well. So let's go into Z Plugin, open up UV Master, and what we want to do is unwrap, but we want to unwrap with polygroups. Okay, go ahead and click Unwrap. So if we go down into UV Map, we can click Morph UV, and you can see that it unwraps into flat segments. Okay, great. One thing I want to test out really fast is if it unwraps, flips, or if it's the right way around. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I've got a standard brush, I've got RGB mode turned on, and Z and Z sub turned off so it doesn't sculpt. And what I want to do is make sure I fill this with a white color. So I'm going to go to Color, Fill Object, and then I'm just going to switch the color to black. Might need to increase my brush size a little bit here, and I'm just going to write the word test just to see how this is going to look. Maybe I'll turn off polyframe with Shift F. Doesn't have to look pretty, just something to test here when I click Morph UV. Okay, so you'll notice that it actually came out backwards. So let's hit Morph UV again. And what I want to do is click on Flip U. And let's see what happens now. Okay, so it's a little bit upside down, but it does read in the right direction. So when we work on this later on, we're going to have to just make sure that we're rotating our view so that we can write out the words this way. Okay, let's go ahead and click Morph UV again. And what I want to do is just clear the word test. So we can go back, switch to color white, go to color, fill objects, we get rid of that. Okay, let's do one more test. I'm going to go into Morph UV mode. And let's write something in this mode. I'll just write test once again. Just going to hit V to get back into the black color. Just going to write test here. And let's hit Morph UV again. So there is something weird that happens with ZBrush. It doesn't remember any poly painting that you do while in Morph UV mode. So we got to find a way around that. Also, we're going to want to subdivide our model so that we have a lot more resolution. That way our text will come out nice and crisp. So I'm just going to hit Control D several times until our active points are about 4 million. Let's go ahead and Morph UV. I'm going to rotate this view around so that I can look at this top segment kind of more on a straighter level. Okay, now let's import a texture. I've already got one made in Photoshop. It's in the exercise files engraved ring folder, and it's text. And let's just go back and make sure this is selected. And so what this is it's a 2D image. It just has some text in it. January 21st, 2017. Let's say it's a commemorative date. Something special happened on that date. So let's make sure this is the active image. And what I want to do is add this to Spotlight. So let's turn on Spotlight. We'll add this to Spotlight. And then we want to hit the comma key on the keyboard to get rid of the light box. And so now we can position this text over the UV layout. So if we click and drag this center circle, we can move this manipulator around, or if we click and drag in this area between the inner circle and the outer ring, we can move the text. And let's see, I want to move this manipulator back up to here, and then we can click and drag on this, which will scale it. So we want to scale it just enough so that it fits within that top UV shell. Okay, looks good. I'm going to hit Z so that I go out of the Spotlight manipulation mode. And what I want to do is just get a bigger brush here And what I can do is just brush on. It's kind of hard to see exactly what that's doing. I'm going to hit Z again to bring back the manipulator for the spotlight. And I'm going to bring opacity down and then hit Z again to go back into painting mode. So what it's really doing is it's just painting that image right onto the model. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to hit Shift Z to go out of spotlight mode. Okay, now in order to keep this painting or this text as we go back into 3D mode, we have to take a few steps. What I'm going to do is go into texture map mode. And what I would like to do is convert this poly painting to a texture map. However, that's grayed out right now. So what I need to do is convert the poly painting to a mask first. So let's go to masking, and we want to mask by color, mask by intensity. So you might not have seen a change there, but there's a mask overlapping with the text. So what we can do is go back to poly paint, and actually I'm going to hit V because it's filling everything with black. So if we switch that to white, then we'll be able to see the mask that's happened there. And let's actually invert that mask. And now we can go back to texture map and create a new texture map from the masking. So now that we've got a texture map, we can go back to Morph UV and turn this back into our 3D view. And you can see we've got a texture map with text that wraps all the way around the inside of the ring. Now let's convert this back into a mask. So we'll go back to Polypaint, kind of retrace our steps here. We're going to go backwards and get Polypaint from texture. So that converted that texture back into polypainting. And now we want to convert that polypaint back into a mask. So let's go to masking, mask by intensity. Then we can go back into polypaint, turn off the color. And so you can see now that we've got this mask, everything is masked off except the text. Now what I want to do is have that text engraved inwards. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so we can really see what this looks like. I'm going to get my move manipulator and just click anywhere on this. So with manipulator, what I can do is right click and drag on the red inner circle here on the end of the manipulator. And let's see, I can either pull it out or push it in. Let's push it in. All right, looks good. Let's go back to our masking and clear that mask. And let's zoom out. So looking up close, it's a little bit jagged. The resolution of the texture map or the poly painting might not have been as high as it could have been. However, really when it's 3D printed and it's the size of a ring, really not going to be noticeable as jagged at all. Okay, so there you have it. It took a little bit of trickery, but we eventually got it, and it looks really good.